Hi, everybody. It's Judi Glova, and today is day 4 of the Burnout Solution series. And I've collected some of the best experts for you to teach you about how to have your own burnout solution. I'm excited because today is all about alignment, being able to communicate effectively to strengthen your relationships, build trust, prevent conflicts, and heal pain. Now, I want to remind you that we are going to be meeting every day throughout this online series in our Facebook group called the More Than Enough Women's Circle. I'll be live in the evening, so don't miss my daily recap and the highlights. Plus, I'm going to answer your questions too, because I want to make sure that you can take action on the tools and the skills that you learn each day. So if you haven't already, head over to the More Than Enough Women's Circle and make sure that you can join us. Okay, everybody, let's kick off. I have here with me today Kelly Resendez. Kelly, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Excited to be here with you.
Great. And I just want to introduce Kelly. Kelly is a writer, speaker, mortgage executive, and founder of Big Voices, a women empowerment network. She's the author of Big Voices and Foundation to Sustainable Success. Her mission is to help others increase joy, reduce self-suffering, and learn to think differently so you can live an authentic and extraordinary life. She is the mother of 2 amazing teenagers. And you know what, Kelly, I just love what you do, and I'm so excited to have you here today. And our talk today is actually focusing on finding your big voice professionally. So, yes. Kelly, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great,
All right, so I'm going to actually kick off with the one question that I'm asking everybody, which is, you know, when you think about the business women that you serve and that you work with, why do you think that overstress and burnout has become such an epidemic?
Yeah, if you really look at the ugly truth of where we are, even though women have come into the workforce since, the glass ceiling shattered, we haven't really equally distributed all of the other things in our life, like raising kids and taking care of our home. And quite frankly, as just a group of people, we aren't great at asking for help and knowing what our own capacity is. And so often, we empty our cup trying to please or serve other people, and then we burn out, we are completely drained, and it's tough where, I always try to encourage people, like, let the cup overflow so then you can serve and you don't get that extreme fatigue that you would, suffer from if you burn out.
Okay, so that's a key distinction that you made there, and I want you to expand on that a little bit. So, because I think I know what you mean by let the cup overflow, but do you mean that you want people to fill their own cup first, or do you want to mean like let the cup overflow and sometimes you're going to miss stuff? Like what specifically do you want the message? Because I think both messages are awesome.
Absolutely. So I'll start with the first one, which is, we have to just openly admit that we really suck at self-care. I talk to women every single day that are out there, and the common theme is I'm overwhelmed. I have too many things that are going on. We don't know how to say no often enough. And it really comes from that place where we don't have a crystal clear idea of what our priorities are. And then we just start adding activities to our schedule. And before we know it, we've depleted ourselves. And I look at sleep, when you really just look at where sleep is, 90% of women report that they don't get a good night's sleep. And even, a smaller group, though, is literally almost sleepless. And so sleep being one of the greatest ways that we regain and restore our energy and our body functions, metabolically right, and all of these other things, we start with that, and we don't even know how to prioritize sleep. And so self-care, for a lot of women, especially executives, we get the leftovers. So, we come to work, we work all day, and then we're supposed to take care of ourselves, which then we're exhausted. So then we don't. And then exercise or eating healthy ends up falling to the wayside. And so when we really just start our day with knowing what our priorities are, putting ourselves first. You know, I kind of do a miracle morning routine, little
Right.
different than what Hal Elrod, who's one of my all-time favorites out there, preaches. But, you know, I have to get up before the kids do. I've got to take care of myself. And I'm kind of, you know, doing two things at once. While my tea is in the microwave, I'm doing push-ups and squats and already starting to get my body moving so that I'm prepared for the day. And then I had to figure out what self-care meant and what celebration for me meant. Like, I didn't really know what I would do with my time if I were to really love on myself. So that's how you get that cup overflowing, is just really saying, it is okay to put your own emotional and physical well-being before your job, before your children, your spouse, etc., so that you are in that place where it's just spreading love and joy. You're not exhausted and things are much better.
Yeah.
So,
Isn't that interesting? Because when you get that experience of doing it, and I
yeah,
think that some people are like, they poo-poo it and they're like, oh yeah, well, yeah, but you say that, but how am I going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning? Well, actually,
yeah,
it works when you
it
do
does.
it. But I want to highlight what you had said, because I really want people to remember these key points, is that, you know what, acknowledge that, you know, up till now, we've sucked at self-care
Yeah.
and that we need to pay attention to it. The fact that sleep is one of the things that we actually deprive ourselves, and it's one of the most restorative things that our body needs and our brain needs. I've actually read articles that the reason why we get brain fog is that we don't give our brain time to rest. It's like our brain needs to rest. It's on all the time. And we have all our digital devices and all this stuff. And we're bombarded by a million different messages and, you know, expecting to work even faster. So I love that message. And then I think, you know, you mentioned about, you know, having a miracle morning, you know, having that ritual, having a routine, because when you get in the habit of it, it starts to, like, you start to realize, like, wow, this really, like, you notice the changes, and you notice the changes in how you see yourself. And when you treat yourself good, it's like we treat other people how to treat us too.
Absolutely. Well, and my number one rule in my life is nobody steals my joy. And I wish just saying that was enough. But what I have to do, you know, as I go through my I am statements in the morning and I make my declarations about how I want to show up for people, and I really have a vision and I review my goals so that every day I'm not thrown off, because people ask me to do things all the time and it's like, that's not in alignment with my long-term goals. So my answer is no. I don't say all that to them, but that's how I make decisions. And if I'm not prepared to make those decisions, then I just simply go back to the people pleasing, you know, personality that I used to be. And I don't end up following my own goals. I end up, you know, helping other people reach theirs.
Right. And I have to tell you, I literally had a conversation yesterday with a potential client, and basically she couldn't make a decision because she didn't have an idea of what her priorities were. And it was so hard for her to say no to something that really wasn't serving her, because she was people pleasing and she wanted people to like her. And it was just like, you're an executive, you know, like you're running a huge organization. And, you know, she was actually a CEO, and it's like, wow, she couldn't make a decision to have self-care as one of her priorities. And it scared her. It actually was kind of scary to her, of like, oh my God, you mean you actually want me to tell people that, you know, I want to walk away from this? And I'm like, if your priority is to be in a job that lights you up and like you feel like you're really leading an amazing team, right?
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I have to ask a personal question though. Have you ever had burnout? And do you have specific instances where you really think you really were burnt out?
I absolutely, you know, in 2002, I was at a point in my career where I was a high six-figure earner and, you know, by anyone else's standards, crushing it. But that also meant I was eating at my desk every day. I was not exercising. I was seeking to become present through consuming large quantities of alcohol when I was socializing. And it was just like this repeat button. It was just almost like my life was a broken record and I was miserable. And I really went through a period, I had a trifecta during that season that really led to my awakening. My mom,
Trifecta.
yeah, my mom, who was, 57 years old and was an absolute, workaholic and very successful, was diagnosed with dementia. So it was an absolute, like, kind of my audience, my audience of one who I'd always been trying to seek approval from, all of a sudden disappeared. So I had to start questioning things. And then I lost my grandmother after just a quick diagnosis with cancer, and started, a season with my sister of just some major, challenges. And just those three things made me start asking questions. And I didn't want to get up and go to work anymore. And I realized through that season that I had to start asking for help. And I had the most amazing, probably 10 years of getting so clear on my vision and being able to ask, God or the universe for the help that I needed. And I just had people start showing up in my life that were able to help me grow through this. And fortunately, one of the things that I realized at that moment was I had to expose a lot of the risk factors that lead to women, especially having dementia. My mom didn't sleep. She literally just, it was almost like she put her head down on the pillow, but she just never was able to settle her mind. So I had to learn meditation techniques in order to learn how to sleep better. I had to learn how to not seek distractions when I was emotionally triggered, like food, alcohol, you name it, whatever it was at that time. And I had to sit with that discomfort. And through that season, what I was able to do is just, kind of go on this spiritual journey that led me, from one retreat to another, and learning about myself and figuring out, like, how do I prevent this from happening? Because my whole life fell apart. I mean, I had to completely write a new story for myself. And part of that story was I will no longer get burnt out. And now I have a really good barometer of, okay, I've just exceeded my own human capacity and I need to pull back a little bit. And I've realized also through this journey is that I'm an introvert, which nobody that knows me would have ever thought that. I'm a speaker. I get on stage. I'm a networker. I'm a connector. I'm all these things, but I really recharge being in solitude, reading, writing, taking walks on my own, things like that. And so I just have to really start to schedule that now. And so if I've got a big travel schedule, I have to offset it with, like, not seeing anyone but my kids outside of work for a couple weeks at a time. So,
wow. Well, again, I have to recap because, like, you probably rattled through like 10 great things. But so one thing that you said was, really you were able to ask for help. And it sounds like too, you like had this surrender, and people have like a stigma around that word surrender, and it doesn't mean give up. It means receive. Yeah. And when you think about how women don't receive, we're such good givers and we're such good pleasers, but how do we learn how to receive? And it sounds like you also were letting yourself receive by learning the meditation, understanding the connection to dementia, because you're like, I don't want to repeat that. Yeah. Getting the help. But I really also love the what you were talking about, and this is so key. We get this discomfort and we feel uncomfortable and it triggers us, and we immediately have to like do something to like soothe ourselves, right? So it's how, and I love the way you said it. It's like I became comfortable in the discomfort.
Yeah.
And so many people just want to escape it.
Yeah.
So I really want to honor you for that. That's amazing.
Yeah. And when you do start to become more aware that you are separate from a lot of these thoughts and emotions that are pushing you to make bad decisions, you have choice now. And that's what we have to remember for every single person that's on this call. You can choose to write a new story any given moment. And when I say write a new story, I always tell people, one story can be, I change how I perceive my current circumstances. That's option one.
Mm-hmm.
Or I change my circumstances. It's one or the other. Like nothing says that we have to sit in a really bad situation for a long period of time. And I always tell people, like, see which one it is, because sometimes it's our mindset, it's our focus that really has made our situation seem like it's so bad. When, and then there's the truth where sometimes it really is. We really are being mistreated, or maybe we do have an employer or, someone that's not, grateful for us and is honoring that we're growing and wanting to contribute. So we've got to separate which category we fall into. But
Right.
I just came to that belief that I can create whatever possibility in my life that I want to. So if I want to run 3 companies at the same time, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to impact millions of people because that's my choice. And all of us have so many choices that we can make. I think before we surrender, we're trying to control things so badly that it just seems like we're without choice. And so part of that continual surrender. I mean, I always laugh and tell people, it's like yesterday I think that I'd surrendered, and now today I'm like, whoa, I really hadn't surrendered that much. And let me tell you, there's no better gift than having 2 teenagers and making me see that, because it's every day. It's whoa,
Here we go.
One of you showed up today, and I've got to be more accepting and less judgmental. And so it's just the continual surrendering that we go through as we enter on this journey.
Wow.
Joy.
Yeah, well, I'm going to totally flag that too. Continual surrender. I love that term that you have, because it's a relearning and it's a recommitment every day, because some days we feel like we're in charge of the world and we're stuck in that illusion. Like, I run the show. And it's like, no, you don't. But the other thing that you mentioned too is knowing your human capacity. And I'm going back to a point that you made before. And it's like when you said that you had the aha moment that I'm an introvert, and it's like, I actually am too. I'm like an extrovert too, like on a scale from 0 to 30, I'm like a 2 extrovert. So most of my recharge is also alone. Having that awareness, because I'm sure there's a lot of business women, a lot of introverts that are listening right now, and it's like, honor the fact that you need to recharge. That actually may be the blessing, because like what you were saying, it's like when you make a choice, when you have awareness of your human capacity, then you can make the choice of, do I want to see things differently, or do I want to change the circumstance? Because those two things put us in a power mode as opposed to a victim mode.
Exactly.
Which is just like, we need that. So we need reminders of that so much.
Yeah. And I've honestly, Judi, come to accept the fact that for some reason, hidden in all of us is this unworthiness. Like, I have not met a woman to date that hasn't told me that there are aspects of her life that she feels unworthy. So when things are great or things are going well, there's almost that backlash of the little voice coming in and saying, you don't really deserve it, or this might all fall apart. And it moves us into scarcity mode. And I think that we've got to retrain that. And, I always tell women, visualize the easy button, the easy button that like Office Depot sat there. Like literally all of us want the easy button next to us at all times. And we constantly just want to hit that. We can't hit it. Like we have to do the difficult work. And I wish that there was a word that I could use, because it is difficult work, but it is the most rewarding work that's going to lead you to a wellspring of joy that will conquer anything that you possibly could face. And I am living proof. I had to walk myself through my own big voices process, through some family situations that were incredible. And I look at it and it's like, I could have done what was easy, but instead I chose to sit with it and really walk through it with all the love and surrender in the world, so that I could still continue to spread joy and impact other people's lives.
Yeah. And I do want to remind us that, our talk today is about big voices, and it's also the name of your book, which I have right here. Thank you for sending me. I love this. And I love how, this is really extensive. What you created in this book is just mind blowing. I was like, wow, this is chock full of your journey and amazing tools and techniques and whatnot. And wow, that's amazing. So with that said, and you mentioned, that key issue of unworthiness, what do you think causes that? And what do you think you when you work with business women, when they're going through that, like, what do you tell them? What do you have,
Yeah. It definitely, there could be a myriad of causes for it. I'm a very faith-based person. So I do believe that, what if you want to call it enemy or darkness or just ego or whatever it is that most of us have accumulated, because we're not raised by perfect parents in the perfect situation. I mean, we hold on to certain things, and in the minute that our frontal lobe is triggered, we start to simulate and start to, accumulate a lot of limiting beliefs just in an effort to minimize hurt in our life. And so when you awaken to that, one of the things that I tell women, the most powerful exercise that I do is to start documenting everything that your big voice says, and document everything that your little voice or your ego says that's trying to protect you. And when you document exactly what it is, because if you really think about it, we don't focus on all the positive, cool things that we say to ourselves. We only focus on the negative. And so we've got to just be able to focus on the positive more. Our big voice is going to say things like, you are a unique masterpiece. You will get through anything that you're hit with. Like, you are beautiful, and you are worthy, and you are courageous, and you are a masterpiece. I mean, I truly believe that is how we should all feel about ourselves. Now, a masterpiece doesn't mean that we're without faults or opportunities to grow, but we are a masterpiece, and we see ourselves that way. Where our little voice is going to say things like, there's not enough time, there's not enough money, how are we ever going to get another job? I hate my, life, or how am I going to raise these kids? Whatever all those things are that you say to yourself. And some people even have a really horrible voice, like, you're stupid. People are going to find out that you're really not qualified to be in this. I mean, so many women suffer from imposter syndrome. It's overwhelming. And so you think about these things, and even things like, I'm overwhelmed, I have anxiety, the identification with those negative things puts you into that state where, I'll tell you, I will have feelings of anxiety, but they're not mine, because I am hopeful and trusting that everything's always going to work out. And so I coach on what's called my thought management strategy, which is just really sorting and qualifying all day. It's having the space to be aware of what the thoughts and emotions are, putting them in either category. Are they coming from my big voice or my little voice? And our big voice thoughts, we want to move forward with and celebrate and be grateful for, or take action on. And all of those, that chatter, that nonsense that's coming from our little voice, I honor it and say, thank you. Like, I know you're just trying to protect me because you want to be right, but I've got this. You can trust me. I am powerful. I can create whatever possibility I put my mind to. So no thanks for that one. And I move on.
Yes. And I like also, and I want to know if you agree with this, because in my experience, the little voice is usually louder, or it talks more. It has more airtime, When we first start getting used to listening to the big voice and the little voice, it's like, the little voice talks more, and it's usually very judgmental. It usually puts me in the category of, I'm good or I'm bad. I'm doing well or I'm not. And it's comparing me to somebody else. So that's usually my key distinction in terms of, which voice. And also the big voice says really important things, but sometimes they're like really soft. And they're like whispers, like, you're magnificent, you're a masterpiece. It doesn't always say it really loud. But to your point, you can turn up the volume on that voice and make the big voice really loud.
With intention. With intention. So when you hear it, you write it down, you say it over and over, because we're really just trying to override patterns. I mean, I look at some of my, let's just say, fear of rejection or perfectionism. I can go back to like first, second grade and pinpoint when it started. And then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And before you know it, like, you just gave away 30 years of your life trying to please everyone else and make sure that they like you.
Oh.
So there's a lot to be said for the fact that our brain is just really sticky and it loves just doing the same things over and over again. And when you have that awareness and you separate from it and you just say, not anymore, not anymore, because I am a masterpiece and I really will accept nothing less for my life.
Right. And some of those little voices got started because of the things that happened when we were little.
Yeah.
And when we had little minds, we had little, our ability to think logically was really limited, but we made up stories as to what that meant about us. But yet we kept it was sticky, to your point, and it stuck to us.
Yeah.
And then we kept on looking for ways and oh yeah, there it is again. And there it is again. And then we have to break the pattern. Right. So to your point, being intentional and making sure that we're really clear on, what thoughts and feelings are coming through.
Yeah.
That's really, really important.
Well, and we have to remind ourselves that it's the compound effect of all of those days. It's not one tough day at work that leads to burnout. It's stringing 5 of them together that then creates, whether it's resentment or fear or a lack of freedom, where we feel like we don't have a choice. Like, I have to stay here because I'm earning at this level and I won't ever be able to find something different. And, that difference in our mindset between scarcity and abundance is something that we should all focus on a daily basis, because abundance is I can create whatever possibility I put my mind to. There's more than enough for me to continue to prosper out in this world. I am creative, or I am capable. Yet we start to feel, when we've got that compound effect of our little voice bringing us down, helpless, without choice. And we got to get ourselves out of that, because that is the fast track to burnout. And when we clarify our priorities and have a vision for either how we're going to change how we feel about our circumstances, or that we're going to change our circumstances, one or the other, that's the secret sauce to really just creating, the life that you really want.
Yeah, because the clarity creates the inner alignment, right? You can keep the inner alignment because you have the clarity of okay, this is my vision. This is what I'm going towards. These are my values. These are my priorities. And like you said before, it's so much easier to make decisions that way.
Yeah.
It's easier to say yes and no. And you can say yes and no without guilt.
Yep.
Right? Because that decision, women and making decisions, I kind of want to circle back to that, because in some ways we can self-sabotage by not making a decision. We live by default, or because we say, oh, well, I can't make a decision. I don't know. Or we don't have a choice. So, okay, well, I'm just going to let whatever happens. And that's the ticket to self-sabotage.
Yeah.
So, can we revisit a little bit about, helping women make good decisions? Because I think that's another thing that I just see where people burn out.
Yeah. So when you think about decisions, we should have a clear idea of what our priorities and our vision is before we start making decisions. And so many people haven't documented what it is that they're really trying to create. And if you're in business, we can't get away from being business minded. I mean, there's a truth to just running a profitable business for the right reasons and having the impact that you want on whoever it is that you're trying to serve, whether that be a customer or B2B or whatever market that you're really in. So you got to have that, because what we end up doing is we silently start feeling like either we're giving too much or we're not getting enough in return. And so we're basing things on feeling rather than, just data of, is this working? Is this not working? And we've got to get to this place where we all know that we have a preferred method of sabotage. And so my sabotage management system that I coach women on, again, the whole idea is that we want you to respond, not react to whatever is going on in your life at that time. And where we sabotage ourselves is just kind of that gap between intention and action. So I've got a vision, I've got goals or blueprint for my life or whatever it is. And yet I've got this shadow that keeps showing up, whether it's I'm procrastinating, I'm waiting for things to be perfect, I don't know how to manage my time, I don't know how to make decisions. So instead of doing what we're supposed to, we do the opposite. And so we're the ones that are actually, sabotaging our own success, and our ego or our little voice doesn't like that. And so now it's going to project or blame or become a victim. And then we get into the cycle of, oh, I don't like this, so now I better distract myself. And next thing you know, years go by and you're not working with the people that you love. You don't feel great about what you're doing. And then that's when we completely burn out. And so the sooner that you identify how you personally sabotage yourself. Now, I look at every area of my life. How I sabotage myself in relationships is diabolically different than how I sabotage myself at work. So we've got to figure out there's different areas. And then I have some areas now that I don't have sabotage. I have come to a level of mastery where I'm like, okay, I've got this. This is what this looks like. And over time, we just, we pull it out of the darkness, because what we don't want to carry is shame. And most people would not want to tell you, like, I'm a perfectionist or whatever it is. Like, I am absolutely a recovering perfectionist, and I'll be the first one to admit that I relapse on a regular basis.
Me too.
And I get right back to it the next day, and I set my intentions again. And so my sabotage management plan is really just document some of these patterns of things that you've done in the past. So you've got to go back years and really just look at, okay, what did I really want, or what did I think I really wanted? So that you got to start there, because sometimes we don't really want what we think we want. Maybe society tells us that we should have it or whatever it is. And so you've got to document like how this shows up in your life. And then you've got to find people and resources that have already survived this type of self-sabotage to be able to orchestrate and support you so that you can overcome it and put it behind you. Yes. And it's, simple acts. For me, posting a video without watching it helps me, because my old self would have watched it and said, oh my gosh, your face is so shiny, like it matters.
Right.
Things like that. So I actually have to practice not being perfect.
So again, you've just gone through another 10 great points. So let me just summarize and go back, because what you were talking about is this self-sabotage management plan and how it impacts the decisions that we make when we're not being conscious, when we don't have a prioritization. We don't actually think about what our priorities are, because then we are ruled by our feelings and not by the data. Like, what's the real stuff going on, as opposed to, because feelings aren't facts, right? But we can definitely make decisions. A lot of us make decisions, especially buying decisions, based on emotion. I know I do sometimes. But we want to be able to come from that place of responding rather than reacting. And that takes a level of consciousness. Now, it's been my experience. And again, I love how you said, like, shame lives in the darkness. And sometimes that little voice that tells us you can't, whatever it is, that's the darkness we need to listen to, because I think in some ways that may also lead you to your sabotage, because it's like that those little messages are the ones that point to, oh, that's where you sabotage yourself. Oh, I can't trust that person. I can't do that. I'm not as good as so-and-so. Who am I to think I could do this or that? And I think that is when you're living on autopilot. And to your point of surrounding yourself with people, and again, I have made it my mission as well to surround myself with people who aren't on autopilot. And you can spot them, right? You know them when you meet them.
You can. And I always say, if you don't have a core group, create one. When the subtitle of my book is An Invitation to Women to Awaken. And really, it's just awaken out of this old, program state of like, our kids are the most important thing ever. Like, you've got to achieve significance in order to be important. And I'm all about, like, be present. Like, I would rather you be present with your kids for 5 minutes or an employee than spend all day being there, not being present. And I don't think that we've really prioritized being present enough. And, these smartphones have taken a lot of that away from us, because they're highly addictive. And we're so wired that for us just to sit back for a moment and really look at what input is coming into my life. Am I spending time in nature? Am I spending quality time with people that are like-minded? It takes effort. And again, always know we'd rather hit the easy button. I'd much rather go hang out with people at Chevy's and eat, a bunch of chips and margaritas. It's easy because I know that they're always going to be there.
Yep.
Than to go find a group of like-minded people that want to change the world just like I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just takes effort in order to be able to do that.
Yes. And I know that you and I had a conversation before about how, there's this transformation from significance to love and contribution.
Yeah.
And it's like really, and what those words mean, it's so powerful. So I really want to give you the opportunity to kind of like break it down for us. Like, what is significance? What do you mean by love? Because I think you were talking about being present as love, and then the contribution as being able to change the world. But can you just kind of elaborate a little bit more? Because I love that when you told me that.
Yeah. And when I started on my spiritual journey, I really went like the super spiritual side, which was, Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, and did more like I swung. I went from being this type A overachiever to just being, I was still successful, but it just felt a lot different, almost critical of people that were working and achieving and things like that. And so my pendulum swung back. I was fortunate enough to meet Tony Robbins in 2011. And when Tony came into, my life via, the CEO of my company and had an opportunity to connect with him on a deeper level, that was one of the greatest gifts that he ever showed me, is because I had actually been doing the spiritual thing from a significant standpoint. Look at me. Look how present I am. Like, I'm really good at yoga now and meditating and all these other things, but I really still wasn't 100% authentic, because I am type A. I am an achiever. I am a lot of these things, but I'm also present and deeply, passionate about spreading love and making sure that I impact other people's lives. And so significance is really just, it's the fuel that drives you. It is, what you're trying to get by serving other people. I look at social media and sometimes people will go and do a charity event or something, and then it's the selfie and they want everyone to know. The love aspect is when you don't tell anyone that you went and got 20 lunches and just dropped them off, and you're just sitting with the fact that you contributed and nobody needs to know about it. Both are beneficial. Because whenever we serve other people, it's amazing, but it's the fuel that drives us. And really, when you think about love, it is just when, you are completely open-hearted, you are practicing the law of reciprocity and saying, I give. That's what love is. But most of us have been taught love is receiving. We still need to learn how to receive better. But the purpose of love is just spreading joy and making just a huge difference in the world. And all of us could be something different. It might mean, serving soup in a soup kitchen, or for you and I, touching millions of women. Like, we all have a different purpose, and accepting that we're all unique and different in that way is part of, the love and contribution process of just, like, Mother Teresa never sought to be significant, and yet she was. It's left such a legacy, and is such a teacher to so many of us what, kindness does on scale. And she changed, the entire demographic of how they were, helping these children. So I think you just have to see what both say. Love says something different than significance. And I'm not saying that it's terrible to be driven by significance. I think for me, it was kind of an age thing. I almost grew out of it a little bit. And now it's just my fuel is completely love and contribution.
Yeah. Well, and I do like the way, and again, I like the distinction that you made that, don't judge significance, because you know what, if that is your fuel, I mean, that's one fuel source, right? We can, I'm not saying that, love is the upgrade, but it kind of is. But it's not, how do I say this? You can upgrade your fuel source without saying that significance is bad.
Absolutely.
Right? And being able to do both, and know that as humans, we need to feel significant. We actually, it's a human need. So don't judge it as wrong. It's just being able to work with it and have the balance between significance and love. I think that we started at that point when we first started talking about, it's about some kind of balance and having some kind of balance there. And I love that you were talking about, contribution, and how, giving to others is that sometimes it is how we receive, it's how we get the love. It's when you're able to contribute to something larger than yourself. And in some ways that becomes the byproduct. I mean, then you become significant because you're contributing so much. So, and, with this book, you're definitely contributing in a huge, huge way. You're definitely reaching lots of women. And I love that you said that it's an invitation. It's an invitation. You're inviting women in. You're not telling them what to do, but it's like, I'm inviting you into your own life and into your own consciousness and being able to make these choices for yourself. Because I think a lot of times we're told that, we need to do certain things, but when you invite people in, it feels like, oh, I'm invited.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I found Power of Now, I think in like 2004. And I wanted to hunt Eckhart Tolle down and not do nice things to him. That's the honest truth. Because I was already an overthinker. Right. My brain was on fire. And now instead of having one thought, I was having two. It was like, am I present? Am I present right now? Like, what's going on? Like, where's that thought coming from? And it really took me, a year of practice of really being conscious and aware that I was not my thoughts and I was not my emotions to really understand, the point of what he was trying to make. And I'm so grateful, to people like him that started to talk about consciousness as being something that we should all strive for. And yet we're just not wired that way. I mean, we just aren't. Like we can't push people to consciousness. Like my awakening came early because my mom, who was my role model, all of a sudden it was like her brain broke down. And I think again, it was because she was so exhausted and was constantly striving. And whether that's true or not, it was just, it was that shift that I needed to start living my life differently. And my legacy and the way that I honor my mom was through writing this book and through trying to spread some of these ugly truths that women face, because the burnout is real. And whether or not you see it on the streets or on Facebook or anywhere else, or even in your jobs, I can tell you from the number of women that reach out to me, tons of women are burnt out that are working beside you. They're just afraid to say anything. And so we've got to get this out, that it's not okay. We've got to write new rules for how we work and balance home life. Because right now the rules aren't working. Like we're injured as a group. Obesity is high. 20% of women are on anti-psychiatric medication right now. This is not a quick fix, easy button. This is learn how to be present and not give in to the anxious thoughts and feelings that we have. So it is so important. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this, because we've got to spread this awareness.
Yes. And again, there's been so many times in my life too, that I wanted that easy button.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was this little voice in my head that said, you know what? No, and I don't have any judgment against people that need medication from time to time. Like I understand on some circumstances, it's really necessary. It wasn't a choice for me. Like for me, I was just, I just wanted to have a conscious, like I wanted to raise my consciousness to see if that was going to help first. Yeah. And it was a lot of hard work, though. I do want to emphasize what you've said. You need to have, I shouldn't say hard work. It was a commitment. I needed to commit to myself. Yeah. And when you do that, it's really, once you make the choice and you are consistent and you show up for yourself, I mean, it makes all the difference. So,
but it's all boils down to perception, right? So we've categorized this as hard because we may have been doing what was easy for so long. So now we just need to shift our mindset to say, this is normal. It's normal for me to exercise 5 or 6 days a week and do these things. It's normal for me to have my miracle morning. It's normal for me to do all these things. Then if I do more than that, then it becomes hard. And so we've got to redefine some of those things for ourselves, because it is just, we aren't thriving right now. I mean, we're just not. Like, as much as people say that we've moved forward, I disagree. I don't Like, I don't believe that the reason why a lot of women aren't in leadership or executive level positions is because we aren't qualified or that we don't have opportunity. I think a lot of it is that we don't want to, because we know what type of world it is. I don't know if you saw that banter back and forth between Ariana Huffington and Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yes, I did. Yeah, how he was bragging that he doesn't sleep, and she's just like, dude, I want to call you out on this in public. Like, to have a discourse on the fact that you need sleep.
And like, but we do wear like hustling, like this whole pound hustling movement. You don't need to hustle. Like, there's a different way. Like, be fueled with love, and you will not burn out. Like, when you fill your cup again and it overflows, like you're gonna do amazing things.
Yes.
And
yeah, and I just want to acknowledge that you are living proof of it, because you are a woman who, you have a big job. You have a huge, job that you do. Plus you have all these other things that you do from your heart. I mean, you have your book, as well as, all the outreach that you do to women, and your foundation. I mean, it's just so much. You really, really do.
Yeah. And again, going back to that whole thing, what was my fuel? It wasn't hard work. People will say, like, how did you write the book while you're running a company and doing these other things? And it was like, it literally 45 minutes a day. It was the compound effect of writing every single day that added up and created, big voices. And I just believe, again, like, capacity. Don't compare yourself to me or anyone else. Like, we all have a different level of capacity. I have an extremely high level of capacity, but I also go to bed at 9:30 every night, knowing that I've got to get this rest in order to keep my capacity that high. Right. And figure out where your own, set button is. And then when you feel yourself coming down, just have this self-care list that you can turn to and say, wow, I should probably go get a massage, or, take an hour by myself, or really do those things.
Yeah. Well, again, we have covered so much in this amount of time. I can't even believe it. But I have to ask, if there was one thing that you wanted women to walk away from about, what we've talked about today, what's the one key message you really want them to leave with?
The message really is hope, that you can write a new story any moment that you want. And in doing that, you will change either the way that you feel about your situation, or you will change your situation. It's one of those two things. And you are so powerful that you can create whatever possibility that you've ever imagined. If that big voice has been silently knocking that it's your time to, launch a new company or do something different, it's not going to go away. It's going to keep knocking. So you need to answer. You need to give it the attention that it deserves, so that you can find your big voice and help the rest of us just change the world. Like, as women, we are so powerful. Like, we spend most of the money. I hate to say it, but we can't be naive enough to believe that, like, mental illness just went up and physical health challenges just went up. We've created it because of what we're pumping into, our bodies on a daily basis, between stress, food, lack of water, all of these other things. Like, we're creating the issues that we're having as a nation.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, that is one final message. I don't think I can top that. So, Kelly, I just want to take the opportunity now to say thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been an amazing conversation. I could go on for another hour. Thank you, though.
No, I'm so grateful. And all of the beautiful listeners that are out there, just, wish you the best.
Thank you. Okay, so everyone, I want you to make sure that you click below and get the free gift that Kelly is giving us. But I also want you to know that, if you've already purchased our Backstage Pass, you'll also get her bonus gift. Plus, you have that no stress option of being able to watch worry-free anytime. But if you haven't purchased yet, it's okay. It's an amazing deal. And when you think about it, it's another burnout solution, because when you get the Backstage Pass, you get all of the interviews all at once, and you can watch them whenever you want. You can actually download them onto your phone and listen to them as an audio file. So we really want you to have this game-changing content. So if you haven't gotten the Backstage Pass yet, just click the link below and you'll be able to do that. And one final note from me is that, you know what, instead of burning the candle at both ends, let your light burn brightly, knowing that you are more than enough. Most importantly, that you can create your own burnout solution and you don't have to do it alone. So we'll see you on the next awesome interview, and we'll see you today during our Facebook Live where you can ask your questions and we can connect later today. So thanks everybody, and we'll see you then. Bye for now.